Oh shit, here we go again. We're back with another one like we never left. What's going on, everybody? This is Sword and Stoned. You're here with Declan. Pronouns he, him. You know, just another day, another chance to talk about pilgrims rising above, defeating all odds. And I'm here with my lovely co-host. Morgan, why don't you go ahead and speak a little history to him?
Hi. That was actually that was really great. So yeah, welcome to Sword and Stone, where we get stoned and learn about history. Because sometimes shit's whack, and you need a blunt to get through it all. Today we're picking up after the failed People's Crusade, led by Peter the Hermit, and getting right into the Prince's Crusade. So I'm just going to put a friendly reminder before we start to be very aware of sources and to be very critical when looking for objective nonfiction history. I was trying to look up some of the dudes that I'm going to talk about, and I kept coming across a particular book that was downright garbage. Its description was all, quote, "These extraordinary heroes defended Christian West from Islamic jihad." And that's paraphrasing because I felt gross putting the full description in. So the problem with this is pretending that the Crusaders are some sort of incredible idealized heroes. The ideal romanticized Crusader knight who is chaste and pious is a myth created in the 1800s. Like pirates, but worse. The Crusaders were rapists, thieves, murderers, and arsonists, all under the guise of a holy war, using religion to mass murder civilians. So this is historical fact, not some idealized version of beautiful, amazing, just, and pious knights who cared to protect Christians.
Man, this feels like just when I found out my favorite band's lead vocalist was a rapist. You know,
That's about it.
Yeah, it's like never meet your heroes. That's the vibe I'm getting here. There's a lot of really shitty people that did shitty things throughout the Crusades, and they shouldn't be idealized. Is basically the whole point we're trying to come across here. A lot of writings can be, like Morgan said, completely written in the wrong direction, where it's like, yeah, these great Christian men went out and fought these savages, and
Yeah, that's
it's just
wildly
not
problematic.
It's very problematic, and it's not right. So that's not the kind of approach that we are taking with this podcast, and we want to make that very clear.
And yeah, it's just important to keep that in mind when you are looking at sources, because some people it's honestly just a historical drivel and should be thrown into the trash. So another world's hero is another world's murderer. That's some Star Trek there for you. So one must one must be impartial when it comes to history. You can joke and theorize, kind of like how we're doing, but you cannot slap your own twist on it for shits and supremacy. So anyway. "And thou shalt come from thy place, out from the north parts, thou and many people with thee, all of them riding upon horses, a great company and a mighty army." Ezekiel 38:15. So marching close behind Peter the Hermit was another army, led by nobles from the Rhineland, numbering at its height estimated well over 20,000. So one specific group, led by, I'm going to mess this up, Emich of Flonheim, had a very specific goal as they traveled through the Rhineland. They started their whole march by wholesale massacring the German Jewish population, of course.
Makes sense. No, make it make sense. I don't like this. Okay, so we're starting right off with wholesale massacre of populations. I love that. All right.
Yep. I'll explain their reasoning. This process, they riled up the local Christians into participating into the massacres, and encouraged lots of rumors of well poisonings. This was super common conspiracy for the time, actually for a really long time, as Jews couldn't use wells that the Christians used. So when all the Christians drank shite water and got sick, only the Jews would be unaffected. So yeah, they got blamed. Some of Emich's anger could have also stemmed from the fact that a lot of the crusading nobles had taken loans from Jewish folk. Christians were forbidden by law to loan and borrow with interest.
Didn't our beautiful commander-in-chief just say something about this?
Yeah. So there was this particular world leader who just said a word that is very reflective of this kind of perception of Jewish folk.
Which is wrong! Sorry. It's wrong.
It is wrong. It's fucking crazy. And it was also just kind of literally written into law that the only jobs that Jewish people could have were things like cobblers or like people who do loans, bankers. So I guess they kind of figured if the Crusaders figured that if they killed the dude who loaned them money, it would exempt them from paying it back. It's really stupid.
Cut off the head of the snake, though. Let's be real. That's a smart idea. That guy, I owe him money. I'm going to kill him, and I will no longer owe anyone money.
But he's absolutely going to have logs and people who work with him or family who will work with it.
Then I will kill them as well.
I mean, yeah, that is exactly the rationing of the Crusaders and IMIX people. So yeah, the Crusaders massacred and pillaged all the way down into Hungary.
Oh, that's not good.
The Hungarians weren't really enthusiastic. Since the People's Crusade previously, if you remember last episode, they kind of fucked them over by a lot of looting. The Hungarian king, Koloman, rounded up his troops and put down the raiders after a few skirmishes. The surviving German nobles returned home in shame. The French kind of continued on because nobody could really stop the French at this point. So this is like the first real group of noble people who tried to leave, and they just fucked it up from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, like when you're the first at anything, you're bound to make some mistakes. Let's be real.
So the next guy was Count of Vermandois, which I'm probably saying wrong, is with any. Just assume that I'm going to be saying any name that's German or French or anything. I'm going to say it wrong. So his name was Hugh Le Mans.
No way.
Hugh Le House?
Huge Le Mans.
Oh, no, it's Hands. Huge the Hand. Hugh the Hands.
Hugh the Hands.
Le Mans? No, I don't think. I don't know French that good.
That's okay. I was just laughing at it, like you say, Hugh Le Mans. No, that's Huge Le Mans.
Huge Le Mans. It's actually Mason.
Okay.
Huge Le Mason set out in late August. He was very proud of his lineage, but had held only small lands, especially compared to his brother, King Philip I of the Franks, who had a lot of land and was steadily gaining more. Encouraged by his brother, Hugh set out in late August seeking more territory. He sent a messenger ahead to Constantinople, hoping to arrange a royal reception for himself. Along the way, Huge was joined by Drogo of Nesle, Clarembald of Vendeuil, and William the Carpenter, and as well as many other nobles who followed with their armies amassed from their lands.
Billy, the master of wood.
Billy, the wood handler.
Billy the wood handler. Huge man.
Huge Le Man.
Huge Le Man, Billy the wood handler. And what was the other name?
Clarembald.
Okay, cool.
So these names are fucking great. So by October, they had reached southern Italy, and Hugh sent a contingent of knights ahead into Byzantine territory to alert the governor of Dyrrhachium, John Comnenus, that he was coming and expected a royal welcome. It was really anything but. Hugh had to get all of his lads there in a flotilla, though I have no idea how they procured this, likely stolen boats. It was small and got fucked up in a big storm just before they landed. Hugh washed up on shore and was found by John Comnenus's dudes, who brought him to Dyrrhachium, where he was wined and dined and watched like a hawk. To him, it seemed like the royal welcome he wanted. To his surviving army, it seemed like he was being held prisoner. An admiral sent by Emperor Alexios, if you remember him, came to lead Huge, to Constantinople under close supervision, intentionally taking him the scenic route to keep him from beefing with certain groups along the way. With Huge's arrival, Alexios quickly had to set a policy for the western princes coming not far behind. He agreed to allow the Crusaders to take reconquered lands for themselves, so long as a majority of the Byzantine lands were retaken from the Turks. These are the Seljuk Turks. It would allow for Christian buffer states between the Seljuk Turks and the Fatimid Muslims, who were mostly in Egypt, and the Byzantines. Alexios intended to be the top dog above all of the princes in their captured states, and in order to persuade their loyalty, he demanded an oath be sworn to him, and in return, he showered them with lavish gifts and donations to the cause.
All right, now something completely off topic.
Yeah.
Who do you think the population, like the group, on Earth has the highest body count? Like Canadians, American. I'm talking about like people not like and
Oh.
dead people. I'm talking about people that who do you think has the highest body count? I just found this out today.
I have no idea. I really don't.
It's Turkey.
Oh,
Turkey
yeah, I
with
can see that.
14.3 sexual partners per person.
Wow.
Second place is Australia with 13.8
Good for
sexual
them.
partners. But yeah, just you mentioned the Turks, so that just clicked in my little brain of mine, and my little choo-choo train started humming. So
Yeah.
I felt like I had to share that. But back to your beautifully well-written script. I am so sorry to pull from this.
No, you are all good. I feel like I should clarify that the Seljuk Turks and the Fatimid Muslims and there was another group. I'm blanking on it. Whatever. Their differences are dynastic rather than like religious. That's where their beef comes from. Is that they're just different big families who have small empires.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, not all nobles were so easily bought by Alexios and his idea of the oath. Godfrey of Bouillon arrived at Constantinople in December. He had been busy extorting protection money from the Jews in the Rhineland, to protect them from the other crusaders.
Did you just say Godfrey of Beef?
Godfrey of Beef.
Yeah, because you said Godfrey of Bullion, right?
Yup, Bouillon.
Boof.
Boof.
Okay.
So, Godfrey's army met with those who were already gathered at Constantinople, which included the stragglers who survived the People's Crusade. This essentially united all of these diverse groups as a Frankish army, though each group maintained separate identities and worked as separate units. A lot of these fellas probably didn't even speak the same language, or if they did, it was so regional that they wouldn't really be able to understand one another wholly. So it kind of makes sense that they stuck with similar dudes to each other.
Just like how whales from different parts of the world don't understand each other.
Yeah,
right? Wow.
yeah. It's like if you heard
Fascinating.
somebody from the East Coast in Canada.
Toronto man's, hey there, fam. You're looking might fatty, crody, bullshit like that, comparative to the Alberta.
It's a
Oh
different
there,
language.
hey there, buddy.
Hey there, bud.
Hey, there, bud. Long story short, bud.
Yeah. So a lot of the stuff is very regional. Raymond of St. Gilles was there too. So he seems to have been the dude with the most clerics with him, and had the intention of using them to man the churches he'd open in the Holy Land.
He's stacking his party.
He's stacking his party.
He's stacking his party. He's trying to fuck with the dungeon master. He's got too many clerics.
Oh yeah, no undead's ever coming near them. So yeah, it makes sense because he kind of saw himself as a bit of a Moses character, not Jewish like Moses. Hell no.
No?
Oh hell no.
Oh, he was very anti-Semitic?
Yeah, I'll just basically assume that every Christian at this time was pretty anti-Semitic, or at least like the wealthy ones who were taking part in this. So not to detour too much, but honestly, this is all so Warhammer 40k.
Ooh.
The holy wars for perceived deity that some people think is divine, some people think he's just a dude, some noble knights trained since birth to be the best killers of those who were deemed alien in the name of their god and emperor, that also some of them don't really believe in, followed by robed holy men, probably waving censers and singing prayers, probably even carrying the bones of saints and holy brethren into battle. Even the stitching of the red cross on their clothes is a symbol of their oath, just like the purity seals Astartes have. We're just missing dreadnoughts.
From the moment I understood the weakness of my flesh, it disgusted me. No, I saw something recently that said just a purity seal. This is fuck it we ball. Just over and over, just fuck it we ball.
I love it.
But yeah, no, I can definitely. I feel like maybe the guys who made Warhammer 40k pulled a lot from Christian Crusade.
A lot. So much.
I mean, it is quite fascinating when you really think about it. And
history is very compelling. We kind of had this idea, at least I kind of did growing up, that history was boring, but no, it's actually fucking fascinating.
okay, any topic that you're taught in school could be boring depending on the teacher that teaches
True.
you it. Like, man, if you have a decent teacher who's passionate about what they're trying to tell you, it may resonate. Like, even if it's shitty.
Agreed. So that's the mandatory 40k moment done. Godfrey of Bouillon, Godfrey of Bouf, seems to have been the de facto leader. Though,
Bouillon stock or is it beef?
it's like beef broth that's been boiled down. So yeah, like stock, but not the
Cool.
powdered stuff, like the better than bouillon, I think. So yeah, Godfrey of beef stock
Yo.
seems to have been the de facto leader, though it's very possible his closest allies were vassals and relatives, most likely. They all held a sort of council with him to make decisions for the army as a whole, like a king in court. So Emperor Alexios was freaked out again by this well-equipped and quite large army chilling outside the walls of Constantinople, right where Peter the Hermit's people had recently been ravaged. Alexios figured it best to get Godfrey to swear an oath to him and send him on his way with a slap to the ass. Godfrey hesitated, as he'd already sworn an oath to the Western Holy Roman Emperor Henry IV. He felt it would be weird to... Whoa, I lost my spot. Hold on.
Which Henry is this?
Henry!
Which Henry? The fourth? Like,
I'm feeling quite hungry!
come on, man. The British suck. You know what? I'm standing on this hill. The British suck, man. As a proud Irishman, as a proud fucking Irishman, I'm gonna say the British suck. They're not creative at all. That's why they have like 13 Henrys, fucking 8 Elizabeths. I don't give a fuck. Fuck y'all. Get
They're
at me in
lame.
my DMs.
No, they're lame as fuck. So yeah, he felt it would be weird to swear oaths to both the emperors. In retaliation, Alexios blockaded the crusading army from the supplies that he promised them. Godfrey tried to keep the peace, but his cousin, Baldwin, almost immediately began to raid the suburbs for supplies.
Alec?
Alec Baldwin. So his resources were stretched thin after such a long journey, they had nothing with them. So panicked, Alexios allowed some supplies through to the army, but he still demanded an oath be sworn. Godfrey still hesitated.
Kiss my penis.
So to try and win him over again and keep the army from ravaging the countryside more, Alexios gave Godfrey a huge chunk of cash, with the stipulation being as long as he was in Byzantine territory, he was going to get stuff. Godfrey then distributed the money among his men, to each according to his needs. Very Marxist girly pop. This certainly cemented him as a fair enough leader. So months went on, and by March, word of more crusading armies were coming to Constantinople. It's beyond me, but Alexios decided to slow the supplies to Godfrey's army again. Cousin Baldwin went a-raiding again, and even captured and killed 60 of the country police force. All cats are beautiful.
I knew it wasn't Alec's first time. When he was shooting that Western movie or whatever that was, with
Wasn't
the prop
her
gun,
first
it
time
wasn't
holding
his
the
first
weapon.
time.
So the cop killing lit the fire of inspiration under Godfrey, and he
1312.
1312. And he assembled his army and marched on Constantinople. The city, so remember, these are Christian crusaders who are now marching on Constantinople, the seat of the Byzantine Empire, you know, the Eastern Christian Empire, or whatever. So the city was heartily unprepared for the onslaught of trained and organized crusaders smashing in the gates. Not much really happened that day, just fear-mongering, and Godfrey doing a show of force. Alexios was hella chill, and just kind of had his soldiers do a big old march, and archers take pot shots. The crusaders just milled around and then just kind of returned to camp. Hugh of Vermandois met with Godfrey the next day, just to try and convince him to just take the oath to Alexios. But Godfrey called him a bitch for bowing down so quickly. Later that day, some envoys from Alexios showed up too, but Godfrey's dudes murdered them without a second thought. In response, Alexios sent a small army to beat up the crusaders, who quickly fled the well-trained imperial soldiers. With his shit kicked soundly in, Godfrey took the oath to Alexios, which acknowledged the emperor as emperor as overlord of any conquests that they might make, unquote, and to give any reconquered Byzantine lands back to the emperor. So Godfrey and his buds were given a bunch of money and sent off across the Bosphorus on the emperor's dime. What a shit show.
Godfrey is such a powerful name. Like, let's think about that. No one names their child Godfrey anymore. When I hear Godfrey, I think Elden Ring. You know, Elden Ring Core, The Grafted. Wow, what a shitty scenario. And this is our history. This is our beautiful history that we all look back on. We think so fondly of. Yeah, the Crusade. Oh yeah, I'm a proud Christian, and I support that. This is why I don't subscribe to any religion, man. It's all just pain.
Yeah, bro, your history is ass. You guys are idiots. all through history.
I mean, how can we learn if not to make mistakes?
I mean, fair point, but we have to actually learn from it instead of doubling back on it. Anyway, so with Godfrey out of his hair, Alexios then had to manage the continuous movements of smaller crusading armies that were moving through the Byzantine Empire. So with some strong-arm tactics, he managed to convince more Western leaders to swear oaths to him, though they really resented him for it. Quote, their wounded pride made them obstreperous and rude, like naughty children, unquote. Alexios sent them on their way just in time for Bohemond of Taranto, not Toronto.
Not Tirana?
Not Tirana. To arrive in Constantinople in early April. So Bohemond is a really neat fella. He sounds super stable. He overthrew his brother to take Taranto, but everyone, including his family, made jokes about what an embarrassment he was. His family tried to put an end to Bohemond's attempt to rule, shaming him publicly and attempting to take back his lands with force. So, when the enthusiastic French crusaders toddled through Italy, Bohemond saw an opportunity to take the lands in the Levant as his family couldn't. Bohemond saw an opportunity to take lands in Levant that his family couldn't contest. With him, he took nearly all of the vassals of his uncle and his brother, leaving them with next to no army at home. So while smaller than Godfrey's army, the guys Bohemond gathered were well trained and well equipped, and chomping at the bit for a scrapping good fight. So, orcs. This army was surprisingly well behaved as they traveled through the Byzantine Empire. Bohemond impressed on his troops not to pillage in a Christian land, and they were well supplied by the local officials. Except for one naughty little livestock thievery and the murder of an entire town whose population was deemed heretical. Whoopsies. So other than that, Bohemond arrived in Constantinople in April and met with Alexios. He believed that the only way to success was through the good graces of the Byzantine Empire. With those graces, Bohemond hoped to be granted an official leadership role. Taking the oath to Alexios without hesitation, Bohemond then asked if he could be the Grand Domestic of the East, pretty please, and just a little slice of Commander-in-Chief of all Imperial forces in Asia. No big deal.
Okay, I might be a little bit confused here. He wanted to be like well known within the Byzantine, but I thought the whole thing was that they were leading raids against Byzantines. I'm confused.
So the main purpose of the Christian Crusaders going to Constantinople is that they're technically allies. It's just that there was a bit of a beef between Hugh and Alexios, and Alexios was like, no, my men are going to beat you up. And Hugh was like, no, man, my men are going to beat you up. And then until he took his oath, and then it was all fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, now they're fine. Felt very weird and petty. Yeah. So like any good boss, Alexios basically said, work a bit harder and then we'll see. Now, Count Raymond of Toulouse, wink wink nudge nudge, showed up. A roaring 60 years old and ready to fight. He assumed himself to be the de facto leader, and he had... Raymond!
That's my man right there. If you listen to the last one, I gave you a little sneak peek about how cool this guy was.
Yeah, this is a big boy. So he assumed himself to be the de facto leader, as he had experience from the Spanish Wars, and had personally discussed the idea of crusading with the Pope. But no one had really given that authority, neither Pope or emperors. Raymond's journey was a bit of a mess. He fought with locals along the way. The bishop he brought with him got captured and returned at some point. Everyone was starving for a while, and there was some vague mention of a corpse wall made of Slavs that Raymond had captured and mutilated. Biodegradable infrastructure, I guess. So, at some point, Raymond's men decided to pillage a whole-ass Byzantine city, breaking down the walls and stealing anything not nailed down. And then, it was then that envoys from Alexios came to ask Raymond to meet with the emperor. Raymond was like, oh shit, gotta go, and left his dudes to get wiped out by the Byzantine soldiers, who happily took the arms and goods that were left behind. So upon meeting Alexios, Raymond was troubled. Like Godfrey, in order to swear an oath to Alexios, Raymond would essentially have to renounce his oath to the Pope and demote himself to the same level as the others. Raymond attempted to convince Alexios to lead the joined forces with him so that he could be second in command, but his idea was shot down quick. Alexios also made a point of not giving Raymond as many gifts as the other leaders. Eventually, by the end of April, Raymond basically swore an oath of vassalship rather than the big boy oath that the others had. This essentially meant, please do not wreck the Byzantine lands, thank you. So Robert, Duke of Normandy, we already talked about him a little bit, was one of the last leaders to show up. He also saw an opportunity for lands in the east, as in Normandy, he held a pitifully small amount of land. His brother had also been bullying him and invading his duchy.
Wait, what?
I think that came out of my face weird.
The
duchy? Yeah, his brother was bullying him and invading his duchy, like, because he's a duke, and he has a duchy.
Oh, wow, man. I don't understand a lot of things. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. So with him was Stephen Dubois. He personally didn't want to go on Crusade, but his wife was the daughter of William the Conqueror.
Why does Stephen Dubois sound like the next Canadian Prime Minister?
It does. PM Stephen Dubois.
Yeah.
So yeah, his wife was the daughter of William the Conqueror, who strong-armed him into it. As one of the wealthiest men in France. Wealthiest when Steve may have had a small army, but they were very well trained and very well armed. Unfortunately, Steve's reluctance to walk all the way to Jerusalem ran through his army, and many just kind of wandered back home. So after a botched sailboating day where 400 dudes and their horses died, more were reluctant to continue on the journey. The only thing that kept the majority around was, for some reason, the corpses of their comrades washing up on shore still wearing their red crosses. I don't really get it, but okay. Somehow it encouraged the remainder of the army to take a grueling sea journey because it was the middle of winter and not really ideal for boats. So, getting to Constantinople, Steve was enamored by Emperor Alexios and all the snazzy gifts he got, writing to his wife, "Yo, your dad William the Conqueror is a dork. This guy's awesome." Finally, the main armies of the Crusade made it across the Bosphorus and were able to meet up with the tens, perhaps even hundreds, of thousands already gathered to siege the Seljuk Turkish capital of Nicaea. So the importance of sieging Nicaea was twofold to the Crusaders. The capture of the city by the Seljuk Turks effectively cut off Constantinople from communicating with any Byzantine holdouts in the east. Nicaea was merely 64 kilometers or 40 miles away from Constantinople, which created much fear and danger posed to the Byzantine capital. So the time was prime for the Crusaders once they all assembled in early May. The Turkish Sultan Kilij Arslan ibn Suleiman was on his eastern front messing with the Armenians. Not the first time, won't be the last. Kilij Arslan had heard murmurs of a western army marching towards Nicaea, but he figured they were as disorganized and ramshackle as Peter the Hermit's army, who the Turks had smoked last episode. So when Kilij did get word of a large army on the outskirts of Nicaea, he sent some of his army to hurry back before following after finishing affairs in the east. The city of Nicaea was very well fortified, with 5 kilometers of walls, dotted with 240 towers in the shape of a pentagon, and it's bordered on its west by the lake. A lake. Most of these fortifications still stand today. I would love to see them one day. So although the Turkish army at Nicaea was large, the majority was still out east with Kilij Arslan. Many messengers sent to ask the Sultan for support, and they were captured by the crusading armies, who began to form a ring around the city. With the arrival of Robert of Normandy and Stephen Dubois on June 3rd, the crusading army was now whole and had Nicaea surrounded. Provisions and supplies gifted by Emperor Alexios made continuous deliveries, ensuring the army was mostly well-fed and stocked. Among them were Byzantine engineers and their handcrafted siege weapons. I'll go into that a little bit later. Allow me a moment to just immediately.
Did me say punch the muffin fuck you up?
A little bit. I was trying not to let it, but it did.
All right, well, we're punched in. Everybody who doesn't know, we punch in on this show.
Punch the muffin, as you said.
Right.
So allow me a moment to talk a bit about arms and armor of the time. In art, Byzantines are often depicted in what we would consider classic Roman vibes, but in reality, they were dressed much the same as the Western Crusaders. For them, we have a great visual source from the circa 1070 Bayeux Tapestry. So their armor consisted of mostly a padded jacket or gambeson, mail hauberks if they were rich enough, and a tunic, which they would patch the Red Cross on, and it usually had something to do, like it had a picture of whatever arms of their family.
So basically, it's my Henry in Kingdom Come Deliverance
Yeah.
because I be stealing from everyone.
Exactly. Honestly, yeah, stealing from everybody and looking cool as shit. Um, so they also wore relatively simple helmets with brow or nose protection, as full-face helmets came about in popularity much later. For arms, usually spears were the first thing one would reach for. Next would be a one-handed sword. Two-handers also came later. And then a shield. Axes and maces were common too, but mostly among infantry.
Find me with a mace. Out in the field with a mace. That's where I belong. Like I am like just eternally sad that I was born in 1994. Sorry, and that I was not born in 194 because I would have gone crazy with a mace.
That'd actually be pretty sick. But crossbows also, which are really cool. They've been around literally since forever in China, but they likely didn't see much use by Westerners until the first of the Crusades. So while cumbersome to reload, crossbows didn't need a lot of training to fire, and they pack a wallop. So, like for archers, most archers are trained from very young children to be very good.
It's why they say have a shotgun for home defense. Because any dumbass can just like pick up a shotgun and just like load it. Birdshot, buckshot, birdshot, buckshot, 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 buckshot.
Yep. So the Turks mostly wore an interesting piece of armor called a gazarant, which was layers of padded armor with mail sewn in between the layers. It allowed for a less bulky experience than the Crusaders had. The Turks also had what was essentially the golden eagles of the time in the form of composite bows, and they were extremely well trained on them, especially on horseback. Despite the prowess of the Turkish army, they were unable to assault the camped Crusaders, as they had hoped.
I know how good the Turkish are on horseback from playing Civilization.
Oh, yeah.
Like the Mamelukes or whatever they're called.
That sounds right.
Yeah. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation.
It sounds right. Marmaluke, something like that?
It's not Marmaduke.
Marmaduke. Where was I? So yeah, the Turkish army were unable to assault the camped Crusaders which they had hoped to do. For the crusading army had cleared out a really good majority of any cover in the area, including like trees, homes. Think of it. So this meant that even as Kilij Arslan arrived and immediately engaged the Crusaders, he did not have the advantage of numbers or surprise. After a day of grueling battle, he fled into the mountains to leave Nicaea to its fate. Although practically every Westerner who had fought Kilij was injured in the skirmish, the victory enthused the Crusaders. They merrily looted the Turkish dead, and taking what I'd imagine to be great pleasure in, decapitated many of their dead to parade their heads around on spikes and chuck over the walls of Nicaea to terrorize the citizens.
Okay, but like that, I understand in war, there becomes a time where every man must decapitate another man. But, I mean, decapitating the dead body, that's crazy. That's just crazy work there. That just to throw it over the wall too, hey? That's
yeah. I'd assume part of it has to do with the fact that in Christian belief, a body must be whole. I believe that also goes for Judaism as well.
Yeah.
Body must be whole to be interred.
I think in Catholicism too.
Yeah, so I think it was kind of a way of saying
like,
fuck you.
You'll never go to heaven.
Exactly, yeah. And then also just for terrorization purposes.
And also, like, dead bodies carry diseases. So
Yes,
by
sir.
throwing over parts of a dead body over the wall, you're trying to, like, infest them with diseases. Even if they didn't think they were doing that
They
intentionally.
were doing it, it would still cause an effect. So by this time, the Byzantine engineers had started to build their siege towers and other machines to attack Nicaea. The most likely to be in use at the time would be a traction trebuchet, or mangonel. It required manpower to pull the ropes attached to a lever with a sling on the other side. Cool things like ballistas and bolt throwers weren't really in use anymore. I know. So even so, the Byzantine fortifications of Nicaea were so good that the Crusaders couldn't break in, even after digging tunnels to Helm's Deep the place. What finally broke the city was when Alexios sent a small group of boats out to blockade the ports. The Turks in charge figured that if these Western nutters had the support of the Byzantine emperor, it was best to just surrender. Without consulting any of the Crusaders' leaders, Alexius's dudes managed to get in and fly the emperor's standard overnight. Most of the rank-and-file Crusaders were pissed that they didn't get the opportunity to loot Nicaea, as they had came into the city later that day when it was under close watch by the Byzantine police, so they couldn't get away with anything. Alexius did dump a good amount of captured riches on the Crusaders, which was chill for the leaders, but the rest still felt pretty cheated in their prey. They wanted to have fun with it. So they soon felt even more cheated as Alexios treated noble Turkish captives very well, such as allowing the daughter and grandchildren of the Nicaean emir to be given back to her family without ransom. The bloodthirsty Crusaders really hated that they hadn't been able to loot and murder as much as they wanted, and a resentment grew towards Alexios. Regardless, there was much celebration. Yay!
Oh my, 'cause I can't kill and rape as much as I want to, but I guess we raped and killed as much as we need to.
Damn, Daddy Alexios said we couldn't kill and murder. That's so sad.
I believe kill and murder
are the same thing. Belief in the movement continued to spread, bringing even more dudes and money from Europe.
Oh! Pause here.
Wow!
Hold on. We're going to take a pause and come right back. We ordered pho because that's delicious.
Stephen Dubois wrote enthusiastically to his Stonetop wife, quote, "In 5 weeks' time, we shall be at Jerusalem, unless we are held up at Antioch."
Yeah, I'd like to get a little stoned up for my wife, if you know what I mean.
Know what I mean. Also, that's some serious foreshadowing there. So this victory essentially opened up the old Byzantine main roads through Asia Minor to trade and pilgrimage.
Asia Minor.
Asia Minor.
Why are you sounding like you're from Boston?
Why do I sound like I'm from Boston? I don't know.
Okay, that was a really good Boston accent.
Thank you. I don't know. The Council of the Leaders agreed to split the army in two. One half was led by Bohemond and Stephen Dubois, the other half by Raymond of Toulouse, Godfrey, and Hugh. The idea was to better supply the armies and to stagger their departures by a day. With that in mind, you would have absolutely kilometers of dudes traveling and meeting up from time to time like a big accordion. All of this separation allowed for Kilij Arslan to roll up again and surround Bohemond's group. The Turks terrorized the Crusaders with mounted archers, keeping them on the offensive. Quote, There suddenly upon a ridge appeared a rider, clad in white, shining in the rising sun. Over the low hills the horns were sounding. Behind him, hastened down the long slopes, were 1,000 men on foot. Their swords were in their hands. Amid them strode a man, tall and strong. His shield was red. And he came to the valley's brink, and he set to his lips a great black horn, and blew a ringing blast.
Gay.
But instead of Gandalf and Erkenbrand racing to save the Rohirrim, which is what that was from. Yeah, that's from Lord of the Rings. Yeah. To save the Rohirrim from the Uruk-hai, it was Godfrey, Hugh, and Raymond, with their forces catching up to Bohemond. The Turks had not expected more Crusaders, and used most of their artillery already. Uneasiness soon turned to panic, as Bishop Le Pux's forces arrived fashionably late. The Turkish line broke, and they all fled, leaving behind their treasure-laden camps for the Christians to gobble up. Now back in one big army, the Crusaders continued on through the desolate territory. Most had been ravaged by wars decades before, with torn down, burned-out buildings, dried wells, skeletal fields, and nothing to take but dust. The landscape turned from mountains to desert. The high summer heat radiated off the salt marshes and the dry, barren lands. The remains of old Byzantine cisterns dotted the landscape, but long dried up too. Horses were the first to die. Most were forced to march on foot, and other livestock, including dogs and sheep, were rounded up to try and pull the wagons. Heat exhaustion and dehydration killed a few, but apparently spirits were still high. Godfrey had somehow been mauled by a bear, but was recovering. Raymond was viciously shitting his brains out, and everyone thought he would die.
Hey, Raymond!
That's my boy! That's my poopy boy!
My poopy boy, Raymond!
In mid-August, the Crusaders reached an abandoned valley full of orchards and fresh water, allowing Raymond to make a full recovery, as well as many of the exhausted and sick guys. I imagine they'd all stink something fierce too.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. Just think, the smell of the medieval world is not a good one.
Same with an orgy.
Oh.
Yeah, like orgies are all well and fun until you think of the smell of one.
Reinvigorated, the army marched on, scaring off the small Turkish armies that tried to square up. Some comet or whatever was taken as a sign that the Crusaders were on the right track. Chronicles of the time record lots of meteorological activity happening in the year 1095. Early in April, there had been a spectacular meteor shower noted in France and England, concurrent with the arrival of Crusaders to Constantinople. It's super common for things like this to be taken as a positive sign from God. Like a self-fulfilling prophecy, this gave the Crusaders even more religious fervor and righteousness.
Of course.
Yeah.
If I saw something fall from the heavens themselves while I was on a pilgrimage,
Oh, yeah.
that
It's a
means
sign.
I'm on the right. Yeah. Come on.
Yes, sir. So upon hearing a rumor that Antioch had been abandoned, Raymond and his dudes split from the main group to seize on the opportunity. The rumor was false, so the crew turned back, but not before capturing a few forts and villages. When they returned to the main army, Bohemond was very suspicious that Raymond had just wanted loot from Antioch and not to share. This suspicion went deep, as many of the lords were feeling that those more loyal to the emperor were going to take over all of the land and riches and not leave anything for those more loyal to the Pope or the Holy Roman Emperor. Many different groups splintered off, including Baldwin and his relative Tancred. They found their way to the city of Tarsus. After only a couple of days of siege, the Turks ran off, leaving the Christian inhabitants to let the Crusaders in. Tancred and Baldwin argued about who was going to claim it, but it was no doubt a Western claim, not Byzantine.
Tancred is for sure my new D&D character name.
That's a good one. Also sounds like what's the word? My brain's blanking. For drinking out a
Yeah, Tancred.
tankard. My brain farted.
That's okay. My brain shits.
So the army marched on, with some pirates joining them, and Tancred, along with some Normans, turned on Baldwin for claiming Tarsus. And though they made up later, quote, it had become painfully clear that the crusading princes were not prepared to cooperate for the good of Christendom and when a chance arose for acquiring personal possessions, unquote. Baldwin did split from the main group to seek his fortunes nearby, but only took about 100 dudes with him. So Baldwin captured and tortured some Armenian dude, then got adopted by Armenian Lord Thoros, where there was some mention of rubbing tits? Baldwin then scared off all of the Turks in the region before possibly cooking up a conspiracy to dethrone Thoros, whose army and populace turned on him, and Baldwin assumed the government later in March.
Hey, here, listen here. All I gotta do is rub a little titties a little bit, and then we're gonna overthrow the government.
Exactly. I guess that works, rubbing titties and then overthrowing governments. Maybe that's what we should try next for the People's Revolution.
That's what Elon Musk did.
Ew. Okay, never mind. So this territory had previously been Byzantine, and by oath, Baldwin had to give it back to Alexios. That said, the Armenians hated the Byzantines so much, and as much as the Turks. So being with Baldwin, since he was from the west, he seemed like the best bet. He had scared the Turks so bad that the emir of Samosata offered up his lands for a tidy sum, and allowed Baldwin to waltz in and release a pile of Armenian prisoners. Some of the other crusading knights caught wind of this, and they joined Baldwin as his vassals. Quote, Baldwin thus laid down the principles of the policy that he was later to establish for the kingdom of Jerusalem, unquote. His general tolerance of Jews and Muslims was something other crusaders saw as a betrayal of their vows. Not their vowels, their vows. Either way, Baldwin was now the richest and most successful out of all of the crusader lords, and he held a great center of communication for the rest of the crusade. And that is where we'll pick up back next time with the sieges of Antioch and Jerusalem. Oh! Thanks for listening. I'll list my sources at the end of the next episode. Yay!
That was awesome. I wasn't expecting the cutoff there, bro. I was really invested, so you will have to listen to the next episode.
You have to now.
Only appearing on Sunday.
No, I'm just kidding.
It comes out whenever it comes out.
It comes out when it comes out, people. We are all, the writer and producer of Sword and Stoned here, chronically chill. We're both chronically chill.
Cripple punk, baby.
Yeah, so we get it out when we get it out. And I know it's been a minute since the last one. And if you actually have been listening and you're waiting for this one, we appreciate you. And
Much appreciation. Thank you. We love you.
we love you very much. And we will check in with all the boys, girls, and NBs next time on
Sword and Stone.
Sword and Stone.
Stone Cold said so.